is a filter in Photoshop? A filter in Photoshop is a pre-built effect. A filter in Photoshop is a pre-built effect. It's a pre-built effect. You can really create some neat looking pictures with Photoshop. Uh, when I do flash animation work on the side, a lot of that flash animation work I'm paid to do because I know Photoshop more so than I know Flash, because I'll create a really cool looking picture that I'll apply slight animation to. The picture is created with filters in Photoshop. So here's a picture. The way you access the filters is you have this filter drop down. I click it, and then there are several, about a dozen or so filters here to choose from. Each of the filters then has different subsections. So if I click brush strokes and I click ink outlines here, I can be honest with you, I do not know what will happen on the picture. Ooh, it makes the picture look like this. I can modify the picture. Yeah, I don't like this one. Let's go to splatter maybe. And you can create different effects with it. Okay? Dark strokes. You can really create some surreal effects, some accented edges, smoothness. Everyone gives you different effects. Let's go to sketch maybe. Got that. Water paper. Okay, so I want you to be familiar with filters because you can really create some neat things. Okay, so look at those, play with those. There's a lot of different effects, and if you were to take my 12-week class in Photoshop, we'd spend a lot of time in filters, using filters to create unique pictures. Okay, now a filter that's really fun to play with, students' favorite over the years has been called, it's the Liquify filter. Liquify is really fun. I'm going to bring up Mr. Walter. Mr. Walter retired a few years back. He was a social studies teacher here, real nice guy. Such a nice guy that I'm going to be mean to him. I'm going to click Filter. I'm going to choose the Liquify option. What Liquify allows me to do is kind of move things. Now, what does that mean here? Let's take the brush size, maybe make it a little smaller here, and we'll click on Dave's nose, and we'll kind of extend his nose out a little. We'll take his lips and spread it out a little. We'll take his nose. Miss Tanner comes in and says, I'm never giving you my picture, Mr. Baker. Yeah, I'll give it to him. Thank you. Liquify, you can really do some neat, surreal things. I can make the brush a little larger. Yep, well, now the brush is really large, so whoa. We'll kind of give him a cone head. Because I just am. Whoa. Now, this is over the top and silly, and I realize that. I've seen some people use Liquify, and they make the brush really small. They've taken a guy with not very large arms, and they've made their biceps big and burly like mine. So you can do some neat things with Liquify. Question in the back? Yeah, the question was, does smudge do the same thing? There is a smudge tool here along one of these, a smudge. It just won't do it nearly as large and over the top exaggerate. A smudge will take things and kind of smudge them in together, which is kind of useful. That picture I showed you where they put me on the basketball player, the reason they made it look so clear is they had the smudge tool and they smudged the two necklines in together, so they kind of blended together. Okay, good question. Okay, so that's Liquify. That's fun. Hopefully you have some fun with Liquify. Now let's talk about the clone stamp tool. The clone stamp tool copies one area of a picture over another area. Okay, the clone stamp tool copies one area of a picture over another area. You can use the clone stamp tool to do picture restoration and do touch-ups. Okay, let me do an over to the top example, then I'll do a realistic example. I'm going to bring up Christina, class of 2005, I believe. And Christina had that long hair. So I'm going to take this hair, and I'm going to use the clone stamp tool. The clone stamp tool is here, found on the left. And it's this one right here. Okay, you'll find, if you just take your mouse over and wait, it'll tell you what each of these tools are. This is the clone stamp tool. I'm going to click on it. And I click on it, initially get this message. I got this message because I want you to see it. This says you cannot use the clone stamp tool because the area to clone has not been defined. Alt-click to define a source point. So that being said, that means it wants me to hold the Alt key and click to select an area that will be cloned. So I'm going to take her hair, and I click on it. And now I'm going to come over here and click, and look what happens. I'm going to give her a beard because I'm mean like that. Oh, she knows, I think. If not, that's life. You give me your senior picture, you're asking for it. Now, you notice I'm constantly going back. Let's look at this. Look at the clone stamp tool and look right under her nose. You see the little circle? Then look over to the left and see her hair has a little cross. What's on the cross will appear in the circle. So I'm going to go over here, and look what's going to happen. I'm going to eventually get into her. Okay, so what's on the cross? I'm going to edit and step backward. That's the reason when I'm clone stamping, I'm constantly going back and selecting an area. Now, clone stamp tool is cool to make the amazing bearded Christina, but let me give you a real-life practical application. Now, let me bring up my buddy here who has issues. Okay, he has a lot of zits. And I'm going to press Control and B at the same time, which is not been in your note sheets, but Control and B will zoom in. And I'm going to zoom in on those zits a little bit more. And I'm going to use my clone stamp tool. I'm going to press the Alt key, select an area in his forehead, click on a stamp, a zit, boom, get rid of it. Boom, get rid of it. Now, I'm not a Photoshop expert, but in all of 15, 20 seconds here, I've gotten rid of a lot of zits. I don't know if I can do anything. Okay. Remember, I'm not a Photoshop expert, but I was able to get rid of all those zits in about 1 minute. That's how, when I was growing up, they talk about airbrushing magazines. We don't airbrush magazines anymore. You Photoshop magazines. That's how they do it. The clone stamp tool is very useful for that. Photoshop has some other tools that will touch that up. But from my experience, for us that are learning Photoshop, the clone stamp tool is the easiest to use. So, I covered these 4 things on what a filter was, what Liquify, clone stamp tool, and how you use them. Today, make some pictures using Liquify and clone stamp tool. Make at least 3 unique pictures today. In your pictures, I covered this yesterday a lot. I'm going to say it again. Make sure you save your pictures on your H drive. You will do that by taking your picture, going File, Save As. Hopefully at this point you have a folder called something like Second Hour Computer Skills and Images. Save it. Save everything on your H drive. If things are saved in my pictures 2 weeks from now, or not 2 weeks, next week, when we go to turn these in, and I ask where your pictures are at, and they're saved on my pictures on this computer, I don't know if I'll feel bad or not. I'm not going to feel bad because I said it a lot yesterday. I'm saying it again today. Make sure you save things properly on the H drive of this computer so you can turn them in. Okay? So any questions, concerns, what you're doing today? As you guys work in Photoshop, I'm going to attempt to start grading the PowerPoints from last week. Okay? So, all right, guys, get to work. Make something fun. Have fun in Photoshop.